What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Week 8 edition of your Sunday Night Football Showdown game here on Rotogrinders. Britt here with Keith. Keith, I don't know. I'm kind of bummed, man. I feel like I ran so bad on this main slate today with injuries and stupid play calling, and Kareem Hunt didn't perform. I'm angry, but you know what? I'm ready to chase it on some Sunday Night Ben DiNucci.
Let's do it. Yep. I decided to jam in Kittle and Cash, save some money with Garoppolo. That is just not working out at all. So
No.
I'm with you.
Yeah, but welcome guys from YouTube. This is an interactive show. If you've never watched these before, we like to have some fun with the YouTube chat. So feel free to post questions throughout the show. I feel like last week, Keith, right? We did the Seattle-Arizona game. Really fun to talk about because offensive fireworks were expected galore and they came through. It was a really fun game to watch. Just on the wrong side of the total overall. This week, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit less exciting with the Eagles going up against, a shell of a Cowboys team here. What's like your first look at this game here? I know you're on the expert survey here. How do you think this game's going to go tonight?
So we've got a big spread here, double digits, 10.5 on the spread. I don't know if Philly's just going to run away with this thing, though. I think Dallas can keep it close. They've got a ton of talent on the offense. Of course, you've got the change at quarterback now. Makes it a little more difficult. But if they can get Zeke going a little and then use some of the talent at receiver, DiNucci can have a little bit of success. And I think they can keep it close. I think Philly wins it. And wins it fairly easily, but I don't think it's just going to be an absolute stomping by Philly.
So we're going to disagree. I think Philadelphia. Carson Wentz has been doing it with nobodies all year long. He gets a couple of his targets back. I think the defense is okay. I guess the main thing is I think the Dallas offense is, unless Ben DiNucci is Justin Herbert, I'm going to guess he's not, or he's Joe Burrow. There's no way to make up for just how bad this Cowboys defense is. I think anybody can put up massive amounts of points on them. We've seen it all season long. There's nothing that's going to change that. The Dallas offensive line gets a little bit healthier today. Maybe that helps out the offense a little bit, but it's really tough when your third string quarterback's coming in there off 1 week first team snaps. But I guess let's jump into this and talk it through from a DFS perspective. We'll start on DraftKings. As always, a little bit more strategy on DraftKings tonight. Let's talk about the captain spot. This is all you want on FanDuel and the MVP. I think, I don't know, it's basically just Scott and Wentz for me over there, and try to vary it elsewhere. I know you can, do some weird things, but I see those two really coming through in the MVP spot over on FanDuel. But DraftKings, there's just so much more strategy. Who's your highest allocated captain? Who are maybe the top 2 or 3? And then who's a guy you're looking to maybe sneak in there to save some salary at low ownership to get everybody else you want in?
Yeah, so looking like Carson Wentz is going to be the highest owned in the captain. I personally like to go a little bit different route on these. I like to go with the skill players. So Boston Scott is my highest owned captain. I think he's just going to get some passes in the beginning until they get ahead, and then they'll use them to grind out the game a little bit at the end. So Scott's going to be involved, and even if it were to somehow flip and they fall behind, Scott's going to be involved out of the backfield. So Scott's going to be my highest owned. I do like Wentz. I think he's going to have a lot of success. I like Zeke on the other side. We've seen him be involved in the short passing game too. With the rookie quarterback, I think that they're really going to lean heavily onto Zeke. So I'm going to be playing a lot of Zeke in the captain. I think he can score 2-3 touchdowns. And if Dallas is keeping it close, it's going to be a lot of Zeke. I also don't mind taking a stab on Cooper and Lamb for the Dallas passing game. If they're in comeback mode, they're going to be throwing it quite a bit. And so I can see a volume approach getting either of those guys there.
Yeah, I'm with you on Boston Scott for sure. He's my I don't know if you guys can hear this. Apparently it's like hailing outside my window. So if you hear anything weird going on, that's what's happening over there. But Boston Scott, I think I love him in the captain tonight. I pulled up Gridiron IQ. You can see if some of you guys are non-Rotogrinders premium members and you want to do some statistical research and easy to read fields on defenses that are horrible at X, Y, or Z, right? We've got Christmas tree, right? Lots of green for Dallas. In fact, they've allowed the most rushing yards on the season. They've allowed the most expected points added on rushing attempts. Teams have ran the ball against them the most this year. They've allowed the most runs of 10-plus yards and the most yards before contact. I'm going out on a limb, Keith. I'm playing Boston Scott on every team, on DraftKings, on FanDuel. I just hand-built 10 teams before the show. If I was making 150 or something like that in lineup HQ, I would legit have Boston Scott on every team I make tonight.
Yeah, I like that. Great play.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good. Let's talk Wentz, because the passing game, Wentz has been doing this with a bunch of scrubs. I don't know if Travis Fulgham is a scrub or if he's, a fringe NFL player or a really good NFL player. I think that remains to be seen. But he's getting Dallas Goedert back, which is no question, I think an elite NFL tight end. Maybe he's not 100%, but he's definitely going to be out there playing a ton of snaps. And we get sort of like the black box prospect of Jalen Reagor back tonight. And I think Rieger's interesting for Wentz too, because he had that one they were basically running him on fly patterns to start the season without Deshaun Jackson. I would imagine he's going to be there, clear out the deep threat for Carson Wentz. And against Dallas, I mean, that's pretty money to be in that sort of role tonight. And his injury, he's been out, it was a hand injury. So he's been able to do his cardio, stay in football shape. I'm expecting him to probably come out there. I think Wentz with good targets against Dallas, he's another one. On FanDuel, you got to play him in every lineup pretty clearly. And on DraftKings, I think he's pretty easily projectable as the highest, if not the second highest, scoring player of the night just about every single time this game gets played.
Yep, I'm with you. I think Wentz is a great play. Rieger's going to be a little higher owned than I was hoping for. I thought or at least we're projecting him for just over 45% right now. So hopefully he comes in a little bit lower than that in his first game back. Hopefully people are a little bit scared to click the button. But I'm with you. I think he's healthy and ready to go. It'll be between him and Fulgham for who's operating as the number one wide receiver. So I'm going to have plenty of Rieger.
I see Canadian Cooper. He's in chat. He's got a free $100 bet on the night tonight. I wish I had that all the sportsbook apps. They just throw things at you. If any of you guys are in in Tennessee, you now have mobile sports betting. You can download the DraftKings app and all that. If you sign up through anything, find some link on Rotogrinders somewhere to do it. I know, we would appreciate that here. I don't have a bet or a lean on anything tonight. I could maybe dive into a couple of the props. I think on Scores and Odds, that's a property of Better Collective that owns Rotogrinders and all that sort of fun thing. You got a prop or anything you're looking at, or a specific side you like tonight, Keith?
I haven't looked at any props yet.
Dude, I'll bring it up. We got plenty of time tonight here. I can see. Everyone loves the props. I think it's a little easier. I'll pull up the DK Sportsbook and we can hash it out a little bit here. But what do you like for a side?
What's Zeke to score would be the one I'm interested in. And then I like Dallas plus the points. Like I said, it's difficult with the quarterback change, and they could get absolutely stomped. But I think there's just too much offensive talent. I think they can keep it sort of close. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they can keep it close. So I'll take Dallas on the points.
The 42. What's the weather in this game going tonight? There's just a little bit of wind, right?
Yeah, it's nothing to be concerned about.
Nothing to be too worried about. So player props, I pulled them up here. Let's see. To score, Zeke's basically even money, plus 105.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. Probably the only way they get into the end zone, in my opinion. So I think I could be convinced to take that Zeke plus 105 on the touchdown. I think that's reasonable there. Couple other things going on in chat here. Let's see. Angoni, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. He wants to know, do you think this is going to be a high-scoring game? So in our expert survey, if you want picks, right, for the game tonight, 4 people, Squirrel Patrol, Head Shopper, Keith, and STL Cards, for the Sunday night game. There's these for a lot of the main Showdown games, but it looks like Dallas plus 10.5 is getting it from 3 of you. I did just note on the DK Sportsbook it was down to plus 10, so maybe some people got on that at 10.5. And it looks like the over is the other side there. I think the over it was at 42. That is too. I don't care who's playing football. That's too low for the NFL right now.
Especially when we have a defense as terrible as Dallas is in a game.
Yeah, so I think if I had a side tonight, it would probably be the over. And I like that you're on that. The 10.5, though, give me the Eagles. I think the Eagles sort of maybe boat race Dallas tonight. So that's where I stand on those particular lines. Jumping back into DFS here, right? We talked Wentz. We talked Boston Scott. Let's hash out the Dallas running back situation because I think Zeke can have a good game. But in my theory of what happens tonight, Zeke gets 12 rush attempts, right? Zeke doesn't have 25 rush attempts in tonight's game. I'm also concerned, Zeke, I don't know if he's a diva player, but I sort of view him in like the Odell Beckham, that type of player, maybe where it's the me spotlight. He's got his own feed me type of thing. I worry sometimes about those players when the season goes in the tank because Dallas has been pretty competitive for a long time, and this is not what Zeke expected when the season started here. They're going in a hole. I'm just not convinced Tony Pollard doesn't get a little bit of run because Pollard looks good every time he touches the ball. Zeke's looking pretty washed. I could pull up some PFF stuff, but he's not really playing really well. Pollard is, I think Pollard's a really good play tonight, and I'm a little bit lower than you on Zeke.
Yeah, I mean, he was a disaster last week. He fumbled twice, and they started getting Pollard in there a little bit. I kind of think that he's out to prove a little something, that he's still got something left. You might be completely right. He might be checked out because Dallas is terrible. He's got his money already. He doesn't really need to show it. So I definitely see that side of it, but I kind of like him to come out and just show people that he's still got something left tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Zeke. I think he's fine, but in my general, what my lineups look like in general, I'm fading Zeke a little bit, going more for the passing game, going more for Pollard as an ultimate cost saver. If Pollard somehow finds the end zone at that cheap price tonight, I think he's going to be one of the keys to victory out there.
Yeah, that makes construction super easy if you're heavy on Pollard.
Yeah, you can just jam in pretty much, whatever you want tonight. Yeah. The people, I don't know if the people, but let's talk about Ben DiNucci. What can we expect from him tonight? Sort of looked like the deer in headlights last week at Washington. When you lose that bad to Washington, when you go on the road to Phil, I don't know. This is why I think Philadelphia can just sort of boat race Dallas tonight. He got a full week of practice with the starters here. He has some athleticism. He was pretty good in college, but when you look at his competition and who he was playing for, it was really the lower levels of college and maybe the lowest level of college you can actually compete against. He has some rushing yards. I think there was if you can find, I guess the prop I did see this out there. His rushing prop was like 12.5 or 13 or 14. I think the over on that looks pretty good if you're looking for a prop. I did notice that out there. I recall that from earlier in the day. So if you can find that and you're looking for a prop, I like DiNucci's rushing yards. I think they're going to have to pass. He can scramble. It's in his wheelhouse to get 14 yards on a single play, right? He can do that. What are you expecting out of him tonight? Out of Dallas's offense? They get some offensive linemen back, which is a big key. They've been really struggling there. I think that goes a little bit with Zeke doing a little bit better, but it also helps protect the quarterback some. What's your expectations? I think it's really hard for me to expect him to come out here and post a, captain winning lineup or something like that. I just don't see that happening tonight.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm going to have 0 of them in the captain. I think they're going to come out and really try to pound the ball with Zeke to start. They're going to try to protect the quarterback to begin the game. Once the game starts to get out of hand, they're going to be forced into throwing it. Even then, I don't think he's going to be chucking it down the field. That's part of why I like Zeke so much tonight is even if he fails early when they're trying to rush the ball, I think that he gets there in catch-up mode, catching the ball.
And drops a couple passes.
Yeah,
fumbles the game away.
Yeah, he could certainly
agreement on a particular, a good player, somebody like Zeke tonight. So I like that. Like gives sort of two sides of the stone there. let's move to maybe the Dallas passing game, because I guess I'm really confused what to do here. I'm probably not looking at DiNucci to hit like 35 or 40-yard bombs to Gallup on the clear out routes.
I agree.
But Gallup's cheap, and if just one of them happens, Gallup's easily going to pay off his price tag tonight. So I've been finding because my lineups look like Carson Wentz and Boston Scott and Rieger or Dallas Goedert, maybe the Eagles D, and then I don't want to play a Dallas player, I got to be honest, but you got to play one. That's what the rules say. So I'm sort of looking at Gallup as the cheap play. I like Lamb in the slot. I think he's fine. Cooper's probably he's expensive, but I don't know. I don't know if you'd have to pay up for Amari Cooper tonight. Unless he just focuses, hey, Amari Cooper is really good, let's throw him the football.
Yeah, that's my play. I'm fading Cooper for the most part. He draws the toughest matchup against Darius Slay. We've got him for the highest ownership of the three. For those two reasons alone, right there, it's going to be Lamb is going to be my highest owned of the three, and I do like taking a couple shots on Gallup at his cheap price tag. Yeah. And I'll throw Dalton Schultz in the mix too. Philly's been really bad against tight ends. Schultz might act as a nice safety blanket for the rookies, so I like Schultz.
I guess we can go. I don't like talking kickers or defense, but I think tonight's a game where I think, I'm not using the Dallas D, but I think both kickers, and specifically the Eagles D, is certainly in play today with the third string quarterback in, lack of offense. The Eagles D, you can Jake Elliott in here as a kicker if just for some reason the red zone offense falls apart. I think the Eagles are going to be able to move the ball, so maybe you play the Eagles D, you play the kicker, both of those in the flex, and you play like Boston Scott and a couple other guys, things like that. I think that could work well. But where do you stand overall? Would you rather play the Eagles D at 90? Well, that's in the captain. I like the Eagles D quite a bit today. They're 6,200. I think Elliott at 4,600 if Elliott outscores Greg Ward tonight, I wouldn't be surprised. If he outscores Richard Rodgers, I'm not surprised at all. If he outscores the Eagles defense tonight, I'm not surprised. If he outscores CeeDee Lamb, I'm not surprised, because if the Eagles are able to move it and the Dallas defense just stops them once or twice, couple 40-yard field goals, I think he can knock those in tonight. So Elliott is actually, I don't like talking kickers, Keith, but I like him a little bit tonight.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I'll probably just be about even with the field on him. I don't have a strong stance on it. I generally like to pay for the skill players and try to capture a little bit of upside. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think.
Do you like the defense? You start out with 10. That's not bad.
Then it goes down typically. Not on the defense is a ton either. The Eagles, I do like. I think they're going to score some points with sacks and interceptions against a rookie quarterback. But the price tag is up there. Mm-hmm. I'd much rather take a shot on someone like Gallup for a lot cheaper.
All right, a couple. I guess we'll get into the dart throws. There's some cheap guys like Schultz and Gallup. They're not even dart throws. They're out there pretty much every single snap, but they just don't get a lot of action. And with the rookie quarterback, who would you be more likely to roster tonight, Schultz or Gallup for $200 less?
I've got a ton of them, but I do like Schultz just a little bit better because of the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going to be taking a ton of deep shots.
I think in a vacuum, I think Gallup definitely has more upside, but he probably only reaches that 1 out of 10 games or something like that tonight, if that makes much sense. All right, a couple of dart throws here. I see some people talking Corey Clement. Probably not the type of play I'm all too interested in tonight. If you go back to last week, let me go to the opportunity and take a look at the snaps here.
Yeah, I was going to say the target share just isn't there. If he was seeing work out of the backfield, I would be all over it. But that's what Boston Scott excels at. Mm-hmm. So I just don't see it. I'll just jam in more Boston Scott. I know the price tag is completely different, but there's just not enough opportunity there for me.
Yeah, Clement's ownership is 5%. That seems maybe 1 out of 20 games he scores the touchdown. I guess that's
Yeah, I
probably.
mean, you could double the field if it's going to be that low.
Yeah, that's
But
probably in line. I would much prefer Tony Pollard. I think there's a much higher likelihood of success for Tony Pollard tonight than
yeah,
Corey Clement. And I think we have him at 11%. I think that's a little low. I think just like the price and the his upside, if I don't know if somehow Zeke gives up, or if it's another 38-5, 7 game or something like that, and he's in there late in the fourth quarter getting a couple of garbage touches. I think there's a lot of ways for Tony Pollard to get there tonight. He's easily my favorite dart throw on the board out there.
yeah. I mean, there's a scenario where he gets the entire second half. I mean, if Zeke goes out there and can't get anything going, Danucci throws a couple of picks, Philly could be up 2 or 3 scores by halftime, and at that point, Dallas is probably just throwing in the towel. And in that scenario, I could see Pollard getting the majority of the run in the second half.
Doesn't look like looks like the Niners scored some points, so maybe something good's going on in that game. Doesn't look like we're gonna make it tonight, Keith. Though.
No, I think Garoppolo and Kittle are both in the locker room, so we're screwed.
Are you playing any of the like Cedric Wilson had his day? I don't even think he saw the field last week at all.
I think he got hurt last week, if I remember right.
Oh, all right. That would make some sense. Because he's been getting it, but I just don't. Can we play Cedric Wilson tonight? Oh, he was even placed on. Oh no, that was last year. Yeah. I don't know. Are we playing Cedric Wilson? I couldn't find room for him in my lineups tonight.
I mean, with the price on Gallup, I think Gallup is a much better play. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the direction I'm going. I don't mind a dart thrower too. What's the ownership compared to get? We got him down there at 4%. $400. I don't mind a sprinkle in GP. If I was playing 100 lineups, you could definitely sprinkle them in.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna have a ton of 4 wide. If CeeDee Lamb or something gets hurt for a little while or banged up, that's when Wilson sort of had his big game. So a lot has to go wrong for Cedric Wilson to come out tonight, and just not someone I'm all too interested in. Any other? I think we talked on most people, except probably the Philadelphia tight end situation. We've got Goddard coming back, and he was supposed to be out a little bit longer than he came back off the IR. And in practice, they're like, the quote was, he's more than good to go. So it seems like he's to me, right? Sometimes like, we'll see if he gets out there. He's questionable coming up to game time. The actual quote was, he's more than good to go. I don't know if that's coach speak, but that gives me some hope that he's basically going to be a every down full-time player. We know Wentz loves tight ends. We know Goddard is more than capable. There's no Ertz. I think you can play Goddard in some captain lineups tonight with Wentz in the flex and things like that and get a little frisky.
Yeah, I mean, with a 26-point total, Philly's got to score somehow.
Big home favorites. That's
Yeah.
That's tight ends. You saw Travis Kelce. I think there were a couple others over the season, but you get these big home favorites. That's when tight ends score a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how much we love Boston Scott, but I don't think he's going out there and getting 4 touchdowns. So
he's not Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I think Goddard catches a touchdown and probably leads the team in targets.
All right, guys. Too. This is an interactive show. There are quite a few of you watching currently, both on YouTube and on Rotogrinders. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat. Keith and I will answer them to our best. It can be anything about the game. If you like a certain bet, if you're looking at a prop, I could pull it up on the sports book. We could chat about it. But we do this show for you, and we like to show off all the cool stuff we have at Rotogrinders, right? If like the expert survey Keith does every time, all the guys put a lot of time into answering all this for you, right? So if you wanted to know who's the favorite captains, exposures, most contrarian, favorite stacks, all this type of stuff, you can get that in the expert survey. If you want to save $5 on your first month of Rotogrinders Premium, you can go to rotogrinders.com/media/SNF for Sunday Night Football. And instead of $39.99, it will be $34.99 for your first month of Rotogrinders Premium. And this is just for like one specific. If you play Showdown, we do these for all of them, right? We have this. We have Slate IQ, which I haven't even really brought up yet. I guess we can talk about this in Slate IQ. What do you think of there's the leverage. And I did not look at this before the show started, but I was very, very happy to see that the 5-1 is what has massive leverage tonight, because this is what a lot of my teams look like, because my belief of what happens tonight is the Eagles boat race the Cowboys out of this game and send Jerry Jones into retirement or something like that. So my teams look like, right, for example, I'll just throw it, Boston Scott with Carson Wentz and Jalen Reagor and maybe Goddard and the defense, and then I toss in Michael Gallup or something like that, right? That's what a lot of my teams look like. Maybe the kicker's in there, but you get the idea. I'm leveraged into that specific outcome tonight. So if the Eagles win 34-7, I'm probably going to have a good showdown night. What do your teams look like? Do you think you could make the Cowboys version of this, and if they win, right, you're pretty much riding solo, I think, into the sunset tonight, because I think most people are on the Eagles version. But how are you doing in terms of 5-1, 4-2, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so 5-1 has massive leverage compared to every other build on the slate. I'm a little bit more on the 4-2 just because I think it's going to be a closer game. The 5-1 definitely sets up for the Eagles covering the 10-point spread comfortably. So, I mean, you're looking at probably a 2-touchdown, 3-score game. I'm more on the 4-2 build, but there's a little bit of leverage on that stack or that type of build as well. Looks like about almost 40% of lineups on this type of slate come in at the 4-2. I just think people are down on Dallas after just looking absolutely terrible last week, and I think there's more talent on their offense to be able to keep this close. So I'll be having 4 Eagles in most of mine, and then bringing it back with like DiNucci and Zeke, or even Zeke and CeeDee Lamb. So that's more my type of build.
I think the 5-1-2, it's right. It's a 10.5 point spread. That's what's allocating it to 5, basically.
Exactly.
When you get the 10-point spread in the NFL, that's generally, that's when teams can get blown out, and if it happens, you really have to have a specific build for something like that. What would a Cowboys win this game build look like for you tonight?
It'd be Zeke and the captain for me for sure. I don't think that DiNucci's going to come out here and throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I think it would have to be Zeke just running all over the Eagles, and then DiNucci taking care of the ball and not turning it over. So I would start it with Zeke and the captain for sure.
All right, we got a couple of questions. I'm going to go through those right now. Sports Junkie wants to know the thought on Lamb prop of 3.5 receptions.
I like the over on that. I mean, I think they're going to be throwing the ball a ton, trailing in the second half. So he gets a lot of the short intermediate routes that DiNucci can probably have a little bit of success with.
Away from Darius Slay too, and that's always a plus in my book. I like that, Sports Junkie. I think that's it's not a bad one. There's could be props that I wouldn't like. I think that's probably a good one. Zeke or the rookie quarterback from Matthew Wood. I think I'd play Zeke as much as I'm not really sold on Zeke tonight.
Yeah, it's Zeke for me for sure.
Kyle Parker, he wants to know Gallup or Ward. What do you think of? Do you think if I gave you over under? Let me go to Gridiron IQ. Let me try to create an actual line here. They'll probably still play. Fulgham's going to be an every snap player, I feel like. Ward is going to mix in out of the slot, and he's probably not going to play 100%. I think he probably would kick back down to about a 70% snap share tonight, maybe a little bit higher. It all depends on if Reagor plays like 50%.
That's what I was going to say.
Then Ward might play a little closer to 90. But if Reagor plays like 80% of the snaps tonight, Ward's snap is basically going to be limited to slot only tonight. So how are you sort of breaking down the Philadelphia wide receiver crew? And I'm on the Dallas Goedert is close to a full-time play tonight as well.
Yep, I agree with Reagor and Goedert coming back. I don't see much of a path for Ward to get there, so I'm going to be way under on Ward tonight. I agree with you that Fulgham is going to be out there on pretty much every play. They seem to like him. He's having success. They're targeting him a bunch. we could even see them go back to more two tight end sets. I mean, when Goddard and Ertz are out there, they love to run that. We saw Richard Rodgers have a little bit of success last week, so I could see them running Goddard and Rodgers out there, which means Ward isn't on the field either. So, yeah, I've got probably about 50% of snaps for Ward, and I'm going to be way under the field.
All right, we have a request for some FanDuel chat. We always like to talk DraftKings. At least I do when I do these, because just DraftKings is a much more interesting game, and I like games. I like the thought process behind it. So we spend a little bit more time on the DraftKings. But let's go over to FanDuel for the people playing over there. I got some teams on FanDuel too. What's your MVP allocation look like tonight? To me, there are 3 players and basically 3 only. You get the weird things. I believe it was Curtis Samuel on the Thursday night game. He ended up, but a lot of weird things have to happen for sort of like the random player to be the MVP on FanDuel, especially a receiver. And it can happen sometimes. And if you're on that, you definitely get paid off because you're the only person on it. But I'm on 3. I'm pretty sure you know who the 3 are.
I know 2 of them for sure. It's Wentz and Scott.
Yep.
I mean, those 2 are absolutely.
And Zeke, of course, is the other one.
And then Zeke is the other one. Yep, that's what I was going to say. And those are the only 3 I'm running.
Who's the highest you got over there?
It's Wentz for me on FanDuel, just because there isn't a price difference. You can play him at the same price as you can in the flex.
Someone wanted to know, can you play both Zeke and Pollard on FanDuel? I think you can do it on DraftKings for sure.
Definitely, because of Pollard's price.
Yeah, I'm a little less likely, right? Because you can play. I mean, Pollard's probably. He's definitely the cheapest by. I almost want to say $1,000 when you get into Ward or Rieger and things like that. But I would try to find the extra 1,000 to play Ward. Then you jump up 2,000 to get to Rieger. So he's basically the cheapest viable play, in my opinion, on FanDuel.
Yeah, I agree with that. As far as being in the same lineup, FanDuel scoring is so touchdown dependent that unless you think Dallas is going to win, I think it's really difficult. I guess they could each score 1 touchdown and both be flex plays, but I wouldn't play Zeke in the MVP and then play Pollard in the flex.
Yeah, I think I probably wouldn't do both of them, but you make a really good point. If Zeke's your MVP, I would not play Pollard only as a flex, and that would just be doing something. I don't know. Is that even going to be different? Because that is he's definitely the cheapest viable play in my opinion by a long shot. So Pollard and Zeke lineups might be one and the same sometimes, because you sort of got to play one to get the other once in a while.
Yeah.
Fulgham or Scott in a GPP flex? Moitoy, I am basically all in on Boston Scott at the top of the show. I said Scott's my MVP. He's my captain. He's my favorite play. I think on both sites. On FanDuel, it's probably Wentz in your MVP. But if I don't have him in the captain, he is definitely in the flex spot. Literally on every team I have tonight. The Dallas defense is atrocious, and I want the running back getting all the touches. And so I'm going to take Scott Moitoy.
Yeah, Scott for me too.
Ward or Rieger tonight? Just like these are 2 pretty wild card players. It's hard to knock Ward. He's going to be the full on slot play tonight for the Eagles.
Yeah. So looking at the ownerships here, I'm starting to like Ward a little bit more. I was all over Rieger in my original build before we got on the show. Diving into the ownership a little bit, Ward's starting to make a lot more sense because I think they split the snaps. It's certainly not going to be something like 80% Rieger, 20% Ward. And if our ownership is correct, Rieger's going to be twice as owned as Ward. So I'm probably going to tweak my build a little bit once we get off the show here. And add in a little bit more Ward.
Yeah, we have Rieger coming in at 47. This is on DraftKings, right? I've put up the projected ownership, and sometimes it's. I think last week we both agreed that Kyler Murray should have been a little bit higher, and I think he did end up being a little bit higher. Do you see anything really standing out if we're trying to project the ownership and the cap? I agree that Scott and Wentz are definitely going to be the 2 highest owned captains on DraftKings tonight. Do you see anything that really stands out. I think maybe the Boston Scott ownership creeps up a little higher. I think he's just such a good play. But I don't really have a stand like I did last week where I think something's, off in my head on the projected ownership.
No, I mean, I'm surprised by the Rieger ownership. I don't know if it's right or not, but I'm just surprised that it's going to be that high.
Maybe.
I mean, I know people like him as a prospect. He's got speed. Coming back from injury though, and really before the injury, he really only did it one game. So
a couple people want to know Ward or Pollard on FanDuel. That's sort of like one of the popular builds over there. You can use Pollard or you can use Ward. I think I'd probably play Ward straight up, but it's very close if you have the extra 1,000. But if you don't, I think Pollard's a fine play on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, straight up, it's Ward for me, definitely.
Let's see here. Again, guys, we appreciate you guys interacting with us on the show. If you got any questions, again, feel free to post them. Do you have any other FanDuel thoughts, Keith? Is there I wish there was more gamesmanship on FanDuel. Do something different over there, but this is what they've decided, and it's pretty unlikely I think it ever changes. What's like Fulgham over there at 1,300? I don't know. I think that's a pretty high price to pay for him when I could just pay for CeeDee Lamb and Scott. Scott is so underpriced. Literally every single lineup on FanDuel has to have Boston Scott, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But a guy like DiNucci,
I would prefer. Instead of Fulgham, I'm going to have way more Goddard than Fulgham.
He's
9.5. So
yeah, I think that's a fine move. Yeah, I agree completely. Let's see. Marcus Terry wants us to bless the chat room with a flex lock for each site. Very, very easy. That is Boston Scott for me in every lineup.
Yeah, makes sense. It's easy.
You want that? You're going to copy?
What
about your boy Zeke?
Something. Yeah, I'll be playing Zeke he's probably going to be 70% on. We've only got him at 55, so I'll probably have about 70%. So Zeke is making sense to me.
Can we play Richard Rodgers and Goddard in the same lineup? I would lean towards a no, but the Eagles do like, right? They can basically, we don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to play Rodgers and Goddard as the two tight ends, and it's going to be Fulgham and Ward, and maybe Rieger only plays like 30% of the snaps tonight, and they run more a two tight end base? That is very in the range of outcomes tonight. I don't think I would. I guess I'm looking at it through the full slate DFS. I would never play two tight ends in the same lineup, let alone two from the same team. But how are you approaching that tonight?
I don't mind it. I honestly think they could be the two highest target getters on the team. It depends. If Goddard's out there every snap, they're definitely going to run some two tight ends. So I see a scenario where both of them could catch a touchdown. So if you're going to do it, I would definitely do it with Wentz. But yeah, I don't mind it.
Marcus Terry want to know, can he get slick with Goddard and on captain on FanDuel, which is the MVP? It's just
no.
The thing is, if you do it, you almost have, in a single game slate, if that was to happen, you have it all to yourself, because he's going to be 1% owned in the MVP spot, something like that. But I don't know. It's very tough for me not to play Wentz, Zeke, or Boston Scott as my MVP. Those would be the only three I have in consideration.
Yeah, there's just not enough upside there for Goddard. I mean, you'd have to have something.
Goddard can have some bait. It is, but coming back from injury, the first game, I don't know. I think I'm passing.
On DraftKings, it's more viable because of receptions.
Yeah.
But I don't think he can get there to where he passes Wentz on FanDuel.
All right. Any other FanDuel thoughts you have for the people? Who's your three highest owned FanDuel players?
Wentz, Scott, and Elliott.
Who's your lowest owned player that made the cut?
Pollard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that's everyone's lowest owned player that makes the cut on FanDuel for sure.
I think he's going to be higher than that 11%.
Kyle wants to know, fade Zeke in cash. I'm down on Zeke. I don't think I would fade Zeke on a cash team. I don't play cash on Showdown. I just want to be clear on that. I'm not too into the click the optimize and see what happens like that on a Showdown slate. But I would think I would probably play Zeke tonight in cash.
Definitely. Just there's way too much opportunity there.
Let's see here. We'll probably stick around, I would say, for 5 to 10 more minutes, guys. We appreciate all you watching. Again, if you want access to Slate IQ, right? We have these for the main slate. We have them for Showdown slates. If you want to see how bad is the Dallas defense, why is Boston Scott going to go ballistic tonight? Because Dallas allows the most rushing yards, and you're looking for a sort of an all-in-one statistical place. Well, we have that right on Rotogrinders too. If you want access to the expert survey, right? Like I would pay like $5 for this tonight if I was playing $100. I would pay a couple bucks for this. I would pay this I would pay $40 a month just to have Gridiron IQ. No joke. I'd pay $40 a month just for lineup HQ. Rotogrinders Premium is just $39.99 for the month. But if you are new, if you've never had it before, if you want $5 off, rotogrinders.com/media/SNF will get you a $5 discount code for your first month, and you can play around. You can make 150 lineups. If you want, you got like 10-cent contests or 5 cents on FanDuel. So for $10, you can, go crazy in lineup HQ, making all sorts of rules and things like that. You can, leverage Gridiron IQ, Slate IQ, and the expert survey, and you can have all sorts of fun. Good way to save $5, get yourself a $5 meal at Taco Bell with it. If you ask me, that's what I'd be doing with it. All right, let's see. A couple more questions have rolled in. Is Fulgham chalky enough to fade on FanDuel? Keith, I'll let you talk about that because you just said something on it that I would agree a couple minutes ago.
Definitely for me, I think Goddard at his price and ownership is a much better play than Fulgham. So give me over the field on Goddard to fade Fulgham.
All right, I can get behind that a little bit here. Mr. Spencer wants to know captain lock on DraftKings. I don't think I would captain lock anybody, but to me, it is Mr. Great Scott. Boston Scott tonight would be the player, just at the price, what it allows you to get elsewhere, the workload, the matchup, the Vegas line, the home matchup, everything points to Boston Scott having a good game. He's my favorite lock on DraftKings and the captain.
Yep, I agree with that. Just the savings from Zeke to Boston Scott is the main reason. I think that the Zeke is viable, so I won't be locking Scott and the captain. But the game script does not matter to either of these running backs. They both catch passes. They're both involved in short passing game. And they're both going to see a ton of carries in the event that their team is leading. So I'm all over both of them.
All right. Beat Boz. He wants a final score prediction. You first. And is it going to be what you wrote in the expert survey?
Yes, it is.
You had 27-24. You like Dallas to put up some points and keep it close.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of respect for Philly's defense. I think with getting a little bit of the offensive line healthy and Zeke kind of getting embarrassed last week and out to prove something this week, I think Dallas hangs in there for the most part.
I'm at about 35-10 Philadelphia. I'm easily winning this game. So I like get your alternative lines out on the sports book and what do you ladder up, right? So you bet the plus 10.5, you bet a little less on the 11.5, a little less on the 12.5, and just kind of go all the way on that one. That's what I like tonight. Let's see here. Is this a night for a 0 quarterback GPP winning team? I'm going to pull up the latest weather here, too, see if Roth has anything on this game, too. Sometimes I could see it, but Wentz has been doing this with garbage, and now he's going up against Dallas, right? Like, I don't know. It's hard to not see Wentz in a lineup tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to play at least one quarterback on every lineup.
Let's see here. Let me see if I can.
Wentz, too.
If this is going to work. There we go. NFL weather. Let's see. Someone in chat said the rain stopped, it dropped 10 degrees, and the wind picked up. From earlier in the day, he had it dry, 15-mile-per-hour winds and some stronger gusts. This is, that Cleveland game was just, I don't know if you saw the pregame videos. They did have some fans. It was horrific in the stands and everything that game. I saw someone on Twitter was like, I was at the game for 5 hours. It felt like I just was in a boxing match with the wind for 3 or 4 hours in the stadium. That's what it felt like. That's not what you're going to see. If you've watched the Chicago game, I think it's going to be something similar to that with maybe just a little bit less wind. And I'm not really too concerned about it. I think I'm playing it very little effect unless I go down. I haven't seen the pregame. I haven't seen any of that. Right, I've been on the show. If I go downstairs and something weird's happen, I will take notice on that. But for now, I'm treating the weather as this no real big deal in this game.
Yeah, me too. There's a massive difference between 45-mile-an-hour winds and 20-mile-an-hour winds.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's going to be that 15 to 20, it's pretty much business as usual for me. It's really not until it reaches over 20 miles an hour that I'm even really concerned.
Let's go see. I'll bring up I'm going to do my Roth hates when I use weather.com, but whatever. It's easy. It's the radar that I like. It's easy enough for me to read on air. The only problem is it takes way too long for it to load up, as you can see here, even with my ultra fast internet connection. It's just like the dumbest thing in the world. I don't know. It ain't raining over Philadelphia. Maybe a couple drops. I'm gonna stick. Roth knows what he's doing. I'm sticking with Roth's radar. 10 to 15 mile per hour winds and no rain doesn't really affect me. It's when you get that 15 to 20 with the gusts, with some rain or snow, that's when I really start pumping the brakes on the passing game. But I'm not really too concerned about it tonight. Rod wanted to know, we'll answer a couple more questions, guys. We'll probably get out of here. The most salary you're comfortable leaving, it's infinite almost to me, as long as you're just not being completely stupid and not playing. If you make a lineup and it doesn't have Boston Scott, Carson Wentz, Zeke, or Amari Cooper, right? Like if you just do something completely stupid, I wouldn't do that. But in Showdown, it's literally an infinite amount of money you can leave on the table. Like people win leaving $8,000 of salary on the table, because if that does work, you're unique and you're not splitting anything with anybody.
Yep. I mean, the one easy way to kind of check that is just plug in a chalky, high-priced guy like Travis Fulgham, for example, and build that lineup with Fulgham, and then just pivot from Fulgham down to like somebody like Rieger or Ward. You cut the ownership basically in half by going to Ward, and you save $4,200. So, I mean, I'd be completely comfortable with that lineup leaving $4,200.
Let's see here. I'm looking at to score a touchdown here. Someone want to know the player with the best chance for two. Do you think Boston Scott or Zeke is a better chance of scoring 2 touchdowns tonight? To score one is definitely Boston Scott is minus 134, and Zeke's better than plus money at plus 105.
Flip a coin, but I would say to score 2, I'm going to go Zeke.
Let me see if
just for his upside.
Oh yeah, there's no DiNucci rushing yards on DraftKings. That's not on there. But some of the like the Bet NGMs and all those, and who knows what else people have access to. You can find some of those. But if you can find a DiNucci prop, I would say 15 is probably my cutoff on what I'd be willing to bet, and I would take the over on that. He has some juice in his legs. Camden, he wants to know, probably our last question, guys. Cooper or Goddard in cash games?
That's a tough call because Goddard coming back from injury, Cooper with the tough matchup. So if I had to go one, are they the same price? First of all, I believe they are. Cooper's 400 more. I would slightly lean Goddard and just trust that he's healthy. There's just a lot of other ways for the Dallas passing game to get there, and I think Goddard is the most talented pass catcher on Philly.
I guess he was 19.5 on DiNucci. I think that was Wentz's too when I saw it here. Wentz's rushing yards are, let me see here. Wentz is 19.5 too. He's been running, but can Dallas even get enough pressure to make him run? Wentz is just taking over. Like he's running for his life and just crashing into people because he knows he's had to over the past couple of games. Yeah. Maybe with some skill position players back, do you think he takes his foot off the gas? I still think he's just in I don't give a damn, I'm going to do whatever it takes mode, which is he's good to have as the leader of your team at quarterback until he gets hurt.
Yeah, right.
All right, I guess I'm gonna call an end to the show. You got get us out of? You got a final take, a hot take or anything like that?
Hot take: Zeke scores 3 touchdowns.
Oh, because mine is I'm anti Zeke tonight. Zeke will not be Zeke will not be on the captain winning lineup, and he won't be the MVP on FanDuel tonight. So I'm much lower on Zeke tonight is my fade tonight. All right, guys, that's gonna get us done with this show. Again, if you want access to all the cool stuff at Rotogrinders and you've never had premium before, you can get it $5 off rotogrinders.com/media/SNF. Gets you access to Lineup HQ, gets you the expert surveys, not just for Showdown, but for every slate. It gets you the Gridiron IQ, which is basically your data center for the week if you want to do your own research. It gets you all the articles, all the cool stuff. You can read my Millionaire Maker article as well. Lots behind the paywall here at Rotogrinders, and saving $5 never sucks. So check that out. Keith, as always, fun doing the show with you, dude. Till next week, hopefully, I haven't looked ahead for next Sunday's game. I hope there's a little bit more offensive fireworks next week, man.
Yep, one of us is going to be right tonight, so we got that going at least.
All right. Have fun, guys, if you want, right? So we cut this early. The questions are flying in here. We cut it early so you can go back and rewatch. We talked about kickers. We talked about all that other stuff. And we let you guys make your lineup. So if you want, you can rewatch this right on the Rotogrinders page or on YouTube. And a little tip, Keith, I listen to everything, watch everything 1.5 speed, right? So I get 50% more information per minute. That's what I do. There's sickos that do 2x. I can't do that on some people.
Yeah, I like the 1.5x too.
Yeah, so if you go back and rewatch any of this stuff and you're trying to cram it, change the speed up a little bit. It'll help you out. That's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for watching, everybody out there on YouTube and on Rotogrinders. Keith, I've had fun. We're going to get on out of here and go jam in some more Showdown lineups. And have a good night, everybody.